beginning, you'll have lots of energy for the dream. The stoke will be high. But here's what that is. It's just emotional sugar. It won't last. And there might even be a crash afterwards. Most of the stuff that we're dreaming about, it's probably going to take a minute to be something, especially if it's real. And here's why. Because dreams are marathons. They're not sprints.
You're listening to the Ferment podcast, conversations about worship and transformation. Today's podcast continues our series on dreaming with our host, Adam Russell. This episode of the Ferment podcast is brought to you by Hardin Coffee, a small batch custom roaster located in the rolling green hills of Kentucky. At Hardin, we believe in locating world-class coffee from around the globe and delivering it to your door fresh and roasted to perfection. We specialize in single-origin coffees as well as seasonal blends. Coffee is communal, coffee is culinary, coffee is art. Visit us today at hardincoffee.com.
Hi, everyone. This is Melissa Keller, Events Director for Vineyard Worship. I wanted to take a minute to invite you to our upcoming Worship Leaders Retreat in Cannon Beach, Oregon, February 19th through the 22nd. This retreat is for anyone who is involved in worship ministry. Join us for a time of rest and encouragement with extended times of worship and personal ministry on the beautiful Oregon coast. If you've never been to one of our retreats, use the promo code Ferment and get 30% off your registration. For more information, visit our website at vineyardworship.com/events. Hope to see you there.
What up, everybody? My name is Adam Russell, and you are listening to the Ferment podcast. And this is part 3 in a series that I'm working on. It's a series all about dreaming, and here's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to excavate down into the realm of human purpose. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to create a little space or maybe a little context for you to come into contact with the person that you're called to be, the life that you're called to live, and the mark that you're supposed to make. You know, part of God's purpose for us, and by us, I mean all of us, is wrapped up in this idea of human flourishing. God didn't make people to be miserable. He didn't create the earth and human beings so we could just be bummed out all the time, or so that life could be like one long disappointment. The other thing I want to say about this is that life is not simply about survival. This is one of the places where I get off of the boat with modern scientific philosophical worldviews. I'm not anti-science. I'm not anti-biology. In fact, I'm very much into those, and I accept a lot of what they have to say. But when I hear those worldviews begin to reduce human life, or not just human life, life in general, down to essentially being an issue of survival alone, I just have to tell you, that's where I kind of like jump off board. Life is not simply about survival. That is not a Christian idea. It's not about just getting to have another day. The life of God has to do with abundance. The life of God has to do with flourishing and overflow. That's what Jesus said in John chapter 10. The thief comes to steal, to kill, and destroy, but he comes to give abundant life. And I'll just tell you, that's what I'm interested in. Part of that abundance is deeply rooted in our ability to dream, our ability to live from our creative capacity, to be makers, to be creators, to do a thing that brings us joy and fulfillment. That's the way that we reflect our divine image. God is a creator. God is a maker. God is a person who is living from a place of joy and fulfillment. And here's the thing I've noticed, and I think this is really important. I've noticed that when someone is doing something that brings them great joy, I've noticed that their joy tends to rub off on me. How many times have I been to a concert and heard a band that was, just killing it and doing their own dream, living out their own dream and doing it in a manner that brings them great joy. But then all of a sudden, right there in the moment, there's this magical thing that happens where their joy somehow becomes my joy. That's the thing about joy. And honestly, it's the thing about all the fruits of the Spirit. Number one, they're fruits. And I love this idea or this metaphor. Really, what that means is this. It means that whatever those qualities of human existence are, it means that they're delicious and they're consumable. There's a sense in which growing the fruits of the Spirit in your life means that they are consumable in a way where other people are actually supposed to be the ones who consume it. I want to grow love, joy, peace, and patience in my life because those can become fruits for other people to experience. And this is what happens with human flourishing, living out of dreams, living out of God-ordained purposes. There's a joy there. There's a particular quality of life that exists in that realm that becomes a consumable for other people. If you're in your sweet spot, if you're living from your fountain of abundance, doing the things you were made to do, that overflow, it's not just something that's in you, but it becomes something that's available to me, even if I'm just a spectator. To put one more note on this, one of the musicians I really love is a guy named Josh Ritter. I think he's one of the finest American songwriters. Such a writer. But one of the things about Josh Ritter is if you go and see him in concert, he never quits smiling. If any of you have seen him, you know what I'm talking about. He's just constantly got this massive smile on his face. And if you didn't know better, you would think he's on some sort of drug. Except I don't think he's on a illicit drug or even a prescription drug. I think he's just on the drug that is making music, the magic of being with people and seeing the songs that you write come to life in a room full of people who are there to enjoy it. And what's amazing is every time I've seen him, he's just exuding this joy, and that I go home with joy, but I don't go home simply with the joy of having seen him. I go home with something else. I also go home with the inspiration to write and to make music myself. And my friends, that's the power of a dream acted out. And that's what I want to talk to you about for a brief moment. I want to talk to you about the next step in dreaming, which is acting them out. Dreams are not just ideas, Dreams are not just head candy. They are substance for action. And let me just say that again. Dreams are substance for action. That's the difference between a dream and a wish. Dreams are those things we intend to take action on. Dreams are invitations into being proactive. Wishes by nature are passive. They are things which we hope might someday, somehow, things that might someday, somehow happen to us. And just like we talked about in the last episode, the first bit of action is to speak the dream, to talk about it, to make it a part of our vocabulary. But that certainly isn't the last step. And I just want to give you 3 little ideas here as we sort of mine out this notion of acting out our dreams or taking steps. And the first one is one I've already said. I just want to expand on this just for a moment. Dreams are an invitation into action. Dreamers, by definition, are not passive. Dreamers are not waiting. There may be some things that need to be on hold. There may be some issues that are related to timing. But at the end of the day, there's probably something that can be learned, that can be studied, investigated, or done right now, today. And you know what? It may be really small. It may be really tiny. It may seem very insignificant, but there's probably something or some way for us to engage that dream today, no matter what our circumstance is. That's what dreamers do. Dreamers are doing the stuff that can reasonably be done right now. Dreamers talk about the dream. They locate the people who are doing similar things and they get to know them. Dreamers become apprentices. If you're something that you're dreaming of doing or you're wanting to become, one of the first things you need to do, besides just talking about it, is you need to find the people who are actually doing that. And you need to go see them. You need to sit at their feet. See if you can become an apprentice. Dreamers will buy a piece of gear. Dreamers try stuff in their garage. Dreamers go to a conference. Dreamers start making small batches. That's what dreamers do. I'm like 40 years old now or something. And when I was in high school, even before I was in high school, I loved music from the time I was a little kid. And I remember asking my mom and dad for musical instruments. And I never got one until I was in high school. Then I finally got a guitar, and my friend got some drums, and then I learned how to play drums. And long story short, a bunch of guys and I got together and we made our own little band, and we started playing in garages. And it was really just living out of that dream of wanting to make music. You know, the dream for me was never to be like a world famous musician or to be known or anything like that. The dream was just to make music, and we did that together. And what's funny is we did it in the most stereotypical way. We actually did it in a garage, and it was so fun. But that's what dreamers do. Dreamers make small batches. They go to conferences. They become an apprentice. They buy a piece of gear. They work it out in a garage. In short, dreamers work. And here's what I want to say about dreams as well. Dreams are not an escape from work. Instead, dreams are oftentimes a baptism into another kind of work. Now, let me just say this really specifically. Work is not the enemy. Work is good. Work is good, and it gives us a sense of purpose. Work was in the garden before the fall. Human beings were made for it. And dreamers are no different. Dreaming is not an escape from work. It's not an escape from reality. It's oftentimes a baptism into work and into a new reality. The second thing I want to say about acting out our dreams is this. Dreaming is a confrontation with obstacles. Here's what that means. It means that acting on your dream, well, it's going to be exhilarating. It's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. There's going to be endorphins. Here's the other thing it means. It means it's going to be freaking hard. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to be messy. There will be box canyons. There will be dead ends. There will be goof ups. There will be stuff to figure out. You know, if you're dreaming, and if your dream is bringing what's in your head, what is unseen, into the seen world of reality, there's a sense in which dreaming is active problem solving. All you have to do is ask someone who's ever started a business or tried to record an album or anything. Part of acting on a dream is planning and preparation. You know, you try to see all the stuff you need to know. You try to figure out everything that could go wrong. And yet, at the end of the day, there will be unintended consequences. There will be things you don't see. There will be stuff you don't prepare for. And here's the other thing. The money will run out. Here's the thing about money and dreams as well. No matter how much money you have, you will always have a dream that outstrips it. You know? The money will run out. That's one of the things I found out in my life. No matter how much money I have, whether it's a lot of money or whether it's hardly any money, I always have a dream that seems to outstrip the money. And anytime I try to take steps into working out a new dream, one of the things that happens to me is I always get baptized into some sort of a moment where the money runs out. It'll happen. That's okay. That's a part of the process. That's what it means to be a visionary. That's what it means to be a dreamer. We're always maybe one step ahead. And so there's this sense in which dreaming is just, it's just a baptism into work. It's a baptism into problem solving. It's a baptism into obstacles. Many of you guys know that my family and I make wine. And when we started growing grapes and making wine, we didn't know anything. People think that I'm telling them a lie when I tell them that. I'm really not. We didn't know anything. We looked up one day and we had 8 acres of grapes planted and realized we didn't really even know how to grow them. It's hysterical. Here's how I learned how to prune. I learned how to prune grapes by watching YouTube videos. I learned how to prune a vineyard by watching workers in Napa Valley prune their vineyards on YouTube, and then going out in our vineyard and trying to figure it out. You know what? In the beginning, I wasn't very good, but that's what dreaming is. We had a dream to have a vineyard. We had a dream to make our own wine. We had a dream to work something into our farm that would be multi-generational and that would outlast us. And so we planted a vineyard, and we didn't know anything at the beginning. And so for years, it's just been figuring out one thing after another. That's what dreaming is. Okay, last thing. Number 3, dreaming is a marathon, not a sprint. Here's what I've noticed. At the beginning, you'll have lots of energy for the dream. The stoke will be high. But here's what that is. It's just emotional sugar. It won't last. And there might even be a crash afterwards. Most of the stuff that we're dreaming about, it's probably going to take a minute to be something, especially if it's real. And here's why. Because dreams are marathons. They're not sprints. And here's the thing about marathoners. Marathoners train. They're used to the distance. They're not bummed out by the miles. They actually enjoy it. And that's the thing I want to say to dreamers as well. You got to enjoy the process, because the process is like 99% of what it's going to be. Marathoners train different. They run different. They run longer. Not only that, but marathoners eat different. Read for that. Marathoners fuel themselves on something different. One question you need to ask yourself as you work on your dream is this: what am I feeding myself? How am I acquiring hope and energy and encouragement and wisdom? What am I feeding on? And then lastly here, marathoners are just grinders. You know, some people are such grinders that 26 miles isn't enough. And so they become ultra marathoners. There are actually human beings out there who live on this planet who run 100 miles. There are even people who run 200 miles without stopping. Dreamers are the same way. People oftentimes give up after a mile or two. That's most people, but not dreamers. No, dreamers are marathoners. We want to go 26 miles. We want to go 50 miles. We want to go 100 miles, and we train for it. We eat for it. We take in the things that we need to go the distance, because it's a different game. Okay, you've got a dream. Now what? Just to recap, what do? Well, you got to answer the invitation to action. Today, take any small step you can, no matter what it is. Begin to enact it. Begin to enact it. That's the Christian theological note called incarnation. Take it out of the brain realm, take it out of the spirit realm, and put it into the enfleshed realm. Begin to marry the two. Take any step you can. Secondly, you just got to get comfortable with problems and obstacles. You got to enjoy the process, because it's mostly going to be process. And then thirdly, set a marathon pace. Resist the temptation to sprint. Get comfortable with some miles. Begin to train different. Begin to take in a different diet. Begin to surround yourself with some different kinds of people. Set a marathon pace. Okay, high fives and hugs, everybody. We'll see you again soon. Peace.
Hey everybody, this is Casey Corum, the producer of the Ferment podcast. Thanks for listening. I got a couple quick things for you. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. We've got a bunch of exciting shows coming up, and we don't want you to miss a thing. So, on social media, you can find us on Instagram at the Ferment Podcast, and on Twitter, you can find us at FermentCast. Please let us know what you think of the podcast by leaving a review on iTunes. All right, see you next time. Peace.